let's move on to Titans and the Ravens.
You're on fire
overtime.
Today. You're on fire.
Overtime. Hey, man, I'm feeling good. It's Thanksgiving week. The CDC is recommending that you limit gatherings. That's right in my wheelhouse. I just want to sit alone with a turkey by myself. I can't wait until Thursday when I can do that. One leg in each hand, subtly flashing the middle finger to you while I grip the bottom of the turkey leg. That's what I'm going to be doing on Thursday.
Okay.
All right, Titans and the Ravens. It looked like the Ravens were going to win the game. It looked like they were in control because they were in the first half. Titans offense wasn't getting anything done. The Ravens were up, halftime adjustments, and out came the Titans. My goodness. And we're going to give the Titans their appropriate praise and credit, but I think the headline from this one is ding dong, the Ravens are dead. And look, they're not completely dead, but they will be dead if they lose on Thursday night to the Steelers. 6-4 after 14-2. Here is Lamar Jackson, who's had some interesting sound bites all year long. Here's his latest on his belief that everyone's out to get the Ravens.
We just had 2 losses in a row. Games we should have won. We had the hiccups in the game, but we still got to keep fighting through it. That team, it looked like that team wanted it more than us. They was playing physical. When we went up, I feel like, we just took our foot off the gas, but we just got to keep it going, finish teams.
Yeah, look, he also added at some point everyone wants us to lose. I don't understand why he thinks that. But when you feel like everything is crumbling around you, maybe you do slide into that mindset. And it was several weeks ago where he made the comment about the Chiefs being their kryptonite, which was not good. A couple of weeks ago, the idea that people are calling out their plays when they're on the field trying to execute their offense, that's not good. And they just need to get this team has lost something. And I think it started with the Steelers game.
Yeah.
A game that they believe they kicked the crap out of the Steelers,
yes, they do,
although they would use a different term than that privately,
yeah.
And they still lost. I think you easily can lose your edge, and I feel like they've lost their edge.
Yeah, I do too. There's something about, their mojo, their magic, whatever it is. They lost that Steelers game. They went to New England. They went, New England, this isn't the same New England, we've seen. We're more talented than them. They took that for granted, got punched in the mouth, lost that football game. And then yesterday, I'll kind of agree with what Lamar said there. The game's 21-13. The Ravens are controlling it. The Ravens got the ball. He throws that deep pass to Duvernay that gets intercepted, and it's like the Titans controlled the game from that point on. The Ravens defense just got absolutely bullied for the second week in a row, where the Titans did whatever they wanted. And now the Ravens did a good job of ending some of those drives that make them end up in field goals and got lucky because of really Titans mistakes and bad snaps and things like that. But wow, it's just not very often you see a Ravens football team get pushed around 2 weeks in a row. And yesterday, just never be able to stop the bleeding at any point. Just 5 yards, 6 yards, 10 yards, 8 yards, 3 yards, and just moving the ball at will on that Baltimore Ravens defense. And those are things we just haven't seen here in the last year and a half, to where it was shocking.
Even though Calais Campbell wasn't there last year, he had been part of it earlier this year. He's missed some time with injury. That's one of the reasons why you see, and that's not a typo, 173. Identical rushing yards allowed the past 2 weeks, both to the Patriots and to the Tennessee Titans. And let me rewind to the incident we saw beginning of the game, because I think there's a way to try to thread it. Let's try to thread it with what the Ravens are missing. They've lost their edge, and I think that John Harbaugh was looking for something to get his guys going. So he spots a group of Titans players led by Malcolm Butler on the crest, right? It's not their logo, it's their crest at midfield, and Harbaugh approaches them. Harbaugh goes and gets in their face. There's A.J. Brown. I'll tell you more about what A.J. Brown had to say about the altercation. But I think that this was, don't bring the kicker to a football player fight, Coach. But there I think was a desire by Harbaugh at some level to spark his guys, because he knows there's an element of flat with the Ravens right now. And, it worked in the first half. It just couldn't hold back the Avalanche all game long.
Right.
Because I think in sparking his guys, he lit a fire under the Titans, and it all kind of backfired on the Ravens yesterday, Chris.
It definitely did. And you're right. No Calais Campbell. No Brandon Williams, who's one of the better run stoppers in football, D-tackle. Hey, let's also forget, people talk about the Ravens, and we'll get into their offense and all that, but, hey, they're all pro, maybe the best left tackle in football. He's not there. Yanda retired, right? They've had to move people all around, so they've had some issues there. And you're right. I think John Harbaugh was probably trying to manufacture some intensity from his football team. Do I think he crossed the line a little bit with it? I do. I'm sorry. Yeah, I do. I don't think it's on the coach to do those type of things. Sorry. If you want to start to tell your players, hey, that's messed up. That's effed up over there. Look at them over there. Now, what's not messed up or anything bad about it, we haven't seen anything to where I look at it and go, the Titans did anything disrespectful. They weren't like stomping on the emblem in the middle, trying to tear it up. They got into a team huddle, which happens in every game on the road anywhere, where they're going to, break it down. Hey, we got to come out here and play hard today, give 100%, blah, 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 and then go into the locker room before you come out for the game. That's all that was. So that's why I think you're right. Like, I think Harbaugh was just trying to look for anything to kind of get started there. And I don't think it's the coach's job to do that. And I don't think it's necessarily the best look for him. And he's a guy I have a tremendous amount of respect for.
Let's press pause for a second and hear from both Harbaugh and Titans coach Mike Vrabel from after the game several hours later regarding what transpired before kickoff.
What was going on with the Titans players and there before and then after the game?
After the game, there wasn't an issue. Coach Vrabel, I think, was down there celebrating in the end zone. Then he came back around and shook hands. Before the game, it's irrelevant.
I went to celebrate with Derrick and the team to congratulate him, and then I ran back and shook his hand and asked what the issue was before the game, and he said there wasn't an issue. So I went to celebrate with my football team. A lot of respect for John. We shook hands. But, again, I wanted to sprint down there and be excited with the team and then sprinted back to midfield.
They say the eye in the sky doesn't lie. I don't know. Maybe sometimes the eye in the sky misses the handshake, because the video that's widely been making the rounds
you can't
shows
see
Mike
it,
Vrabel
right?
approaching John Harbaugh, and Harbaugh saying, no. So, look, I think that there's something going on there, but no one wants to say anything that is going to become the bulletin board headline going into a potential playoff rematch if both teams make it. And frankly, right now, the Ravens got a lot of work to do if they plan to make it. But back to what happened beforehand. Of course, he's going to say it's irrelevant because it blew up in his face. A.J. Brown was hilarious when I was talking to him about this yesterday. He said, I'm just out there, and all of a sudden their coaches are coming out. Like, coaches are approaching football players.
Right.
Like, what are they really doing that? And he was stunned. And he's like, I'm in the middle of this, and if you watch the video closely, he and A.J. Brown may not even remember it. He kind of gives a little push to John Harbaugh. But he said, look, that told us this is the way it's going to be. It's going to be a physical contest. And, he said some people may not think that makes a difference, but it definitely made a difference yesterday. And it did take a while for it to pay off.
Yeah.
But when it paid off in a big way.
Yeah, and it's not like, they were losing in the first half, but they made some mistakes. It wasn't like they were being bullied or pushed around the field. You weren't like, oh, man, the Titans are in trouble here. They're getting totally dominated. They got no chance. No, Ryan Tannehill made a bad interception. They missed a few passes here or there, but there is got to be something there. First off, these are two, for lack of a better way to say it, tough, meathead type coaches. They don't back down from anybody. They just don't. And they're not going to say a lot in post-game press conferences or do anything like that because they're old school and they're going to keep it between them and all of that. But they're both coaches who pride themselves on, hey, my team's the bigger, badder bully on the football team and, are on the field today, and we're going to show that we're tougher. So there's a clash of wills there that go on, certainly, let alone, the Ravens, in a slump right now. Titans ruined their playoff chances last year. They're supposed to be in the Super Bowl, all those things added into it. But I will go back to what you said with A.J. Brown. Very odd. It's very odd that a coaching staff gets involved in that type of thing right there. You know, and like I said, I don't love that look for John Harbaugh. I love his feistiness, but to me, that'd be something where you get your players to be like, hey, look at these, jerks and blah, 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 and you let them go out there and get into the confrontation. You don't do that as a head coach.
Tennessee Titans, snapped out of the funk that we saw them slip into Thursday night against the Colts. It was a back-and-forth kind of close game. It felt like the Titans were in control. A couple of special teams miscues, and that was that. Derrick Henry, they got him going. It took a while. A.J. Brown, we talked about him earlier. He was awesome on the touchdown catch that really felt like it gave the Titans a lift. One of the great plays of the year as he bulldozed his way into the end zone, taking Patrick Queen with him. He told me, I just was trying to get the first down, but the just raw will took over, and he just decided he's taking it all the way into the end zone. And then Derrick Henry, the only player in NFL history with 2 overtime touchdowns in the same season, if not ever. I got to go back and check the stat. You don't have a lot, overtime games aren't it's usually a field goal, or at least, and for years it was a field goal until they changed the rules. He's got 2 overtime touchdowns this year. At a minimum, it's the first time someone's had 2 overtime touchdowns in the same season. There's a chance he's one of the very few to have multiple overtime touchdowns ever. But the Titans just they know how to keep it close, and they keep it close, and then they get you at some point.
Yeah.
If they don't blow you out from the get-go. That's their model, and that's their mindset. They're not going to roll up a ton of points typically. They just are going to be there, and they're going to grind it out, and it's eventually going to bend their way.
Yeah, they're efficient. That's what we usually see them do, where we just go, man, it's, they run the ball for 7-8 yards. It's a play-action pass for 20 yards, and you just see a lot of drives where you go, 6 or 7 80-yard drive where, they ripped off a few chunk plays, and that was easy for them. And that's really what happened in the second half of the football game. The Titans, of course, patient with the run game. We're starting to wear the Ravens out. And then they have a play-action pass attack with some receivers and Jonnu Smith and everybody else at tight end where, it became too much for the Ravens to handle. It did, and the Ravens started to worry about that run game and getting bullied up front. So they were putting their DBs in some one-on-one situations. And, we don't see them do some of the things we've seen the last few weeks. Missed tackles, guys getting pushed back. A.J. Brown breaking all those tackles, doing that. It's just un-Raven-like. And then the last piece of what we don't hit on here, or we haven't hit on yet, is the Ravens' offense. Somebody else has to get involved. It can't just be Lamar Jackson, the run game, and Mark Andrews. I don't know what the Ravens expect. You're not going anywhere. You're not going anywhere except for a trip to the playoffs and a quick exit if they don't find some more versatility within their offense. There is zero lack of involvement for wide receivers in their football team. It's almost embarrassing that Dez Bryant is your leading receiver, okay, in the game. The receiver. I know Mark Andrews is the tight end, but that to me, that has got to change. There's got to be more to defend with this Ravens offense. People have caught up to the run game. We've talked about their O-line being banged up, things like that. And it's not the same as last year. So what's the next move? What's the next element they're going to introduce? There's got to be something else.
And look at Marquis Brown down at the bottom. It was just 3 weeks ago. He was complaining on Twitter and deleting tweets about his lack of involvement. 3 targets, no catches, no yards.
Didn't even know he was there.
They You're right. They need, and I don't know, is it a quarterback thing or is it a receiver thing? We always say when there's a great receiver and a great quarterback together, which guy is it? When it's not working, who do you put the blame on?
Yeah, I'm one to put more on. First off, the receiver I always thought was overrated. He came from the flag football conference of the Big 12, and he had Kyler Murray and Baker Mayfield throwing him the football. Okay, so that's going to make a lot of receivers look good. All right, so that he plays small, but really, what I will go back to is I just think lack of versatility in the scheme in the pass game too. There's just got to be more there. And again, with Hollywood Brown, Mike, we talked about this a little last week. Okay, you dropped him in the first round. Give him a reverse. Give him a wide receiver screen. Do something. Give him the damn ball somehow. You can't just say, oh, he didn't get the ball in the pass game. Okay, he's fast as hell. He's a weapon. He's a first-round pick. Find some other ways. They got to find more ways to get the ball into other guys' hands other than Andrews, Lamar Jackson, and running backs.
Let's take a break, but before we do, just so because this is bothering me, I want to make sure I get this right. Derrick Henry is the only player with 2 overtime touchdowns this year. The all-time record for a career belongs to LaDainian Tomlinson. He has 3 overtime touchdowns. So Derrick Henry is just one away from matching what LaDainian Tomlinson did during his career with overtime touchdowns.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.